Greetings one and all, Holy Apple, Holy Land, Holy Time. Welcome to one and all. Title of our class with God's help today is Torah, the Land of Israel. Take it to the limit. Now, for a long time I was thinking about a title for this class, and all of a sudden this song came to me. Those of you that are over 50, I think, probably might remember that song. It was a song by the Eagles. Take it to the limit, take it to the limit. Won't you take it to the limit one more time? Yeah, remember that one? No extra charge for that singing, folks. But that's amazing. I haven't thought of that song in probably 40 years since I came to Israel. And I'm thinking about what should be the title of the song. And all of a sudden it hit me. Take it to the limit. So that's our title. Right now we're in the midst of vacation for a lot of Jewish youth, and I heard a great story about vacation time and the Jewish youth. So unfortunately, sometimes happens, I'm sure not by your children, but sometimes I've heard rumors that by other families' children, they have difficulty getting up in the morning for the morning prayers. So there was one case where this a yeshiva student was getting up like every morning, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and that was hard to get him up out of the bed in order to get him into the morning prayers. So his father and his mother were thinking of different ideas, and they came to a great idea. They thought maybe they knew that their son highly respected the rabbi of the synagogue. So they thought maybe if they would speak to the rabbi of the synagogue, he would agree to have a learning session with their son right after the morning prayers. Morning prayers that say we're at 7, and they would learn together for 20 minutes, a half hour at 8 o'clock after the morning prayers. So they thought it was a good idea. They came to their son and presented this idea. He was gung-ho, what? I'm able to learn, little me, I'm able to learn with the rabbi of the synagogue here. He was really into it, and not only did he get to the morning prayers on time, he actually got there a little bit early to make sure that he was there and not to miss this learning experience with the rabbi. Anyways, after the first day after prayers, so the boy came up to the rabbi and said, teenager, said, what are we going to learn? He says, do you have anything special? The rabbi asked the teenager. He said, no, whatever you happen to be learning. Tell you the truth, right now, I'm learning the laws of honoring one's parents. This teenager boy, his face like turned all kinds of colors. You know, his parents, he has this quick flashback how his parents are trying to, in the last couple of weeks since vacation kicked in, trying to get him out of bed, and he's turning over, not listening, so like he becomes pale. And the rabbi says, what's wrong? He says, Rabbi, maybe we could learn something that applies to our times. Folks, classic. Honoring one's parents, it's not a law that applies to our times. Teenager said, let's learn something that applies to us. So thank God, in our classes here, we always try to keep it on things, on Judaism, Torah, the law that applies to us today. Last piece of current event. On the way here, I was talking on my hitch to Elon More, to the Holy Apple. I was talking to the driver, and the driver happens to be a special Jew that lives on one of the hilltops about 8 kilometers away from Elon Moreh. It's considered to be part of Elon Moreh, where I live. And the hilltop is called Porat Yosef. So 3 days ago, Arabs set fire to the landscape below 2 hilltops of Elon Moreh. One was the hilltop of Porat Yosef, and the other one was the hilltop called Nachalat Yosef. And 1,000 dunams were burnt. Thank God there was no, the fire did not burn any homes down or cause any injuries to people, but 1,000 dunams. Now this is a tremendous, if you're following the news in Israel, this is like big news. For, since the balloons, quote unquote, the balloons in Gaza, and it's just been fires all the time here in the land of Israel. So there was a gigantic fire in the hilltops of Elon Moreh. A day later, I went to pick up my daughter, who had just graduated from nursing school after 4 years. And we were going to the celebration, the ceremony. And we see above the settlement of Yitzhar, where my daughter lives, which is about 20-minute drive from Elon Moreh, we see airplanes above, going up and down, swooping up and down. That's not a good sign. That means there must be some kind of arson that the Arabs set. So too here, this situation wasn't as simple as Elon Moreh, even though Elon Moreh is not a simple case. 1,000 dunam is not something that fly by night. But in this case, it was miraculous that they were able to gain control over the fire about 30 meters before it would have begin to destroy homes. So this was a tremendous miracle. So all over the place. But this driver who gave me a ride today, listen to what he said. This is really amazing. I did not know this. I was shocked. He said that he spoke to the chief of command of the entire Samaria, Shomron area, chief army commander, and he told him the following. He said, you should know that statistically there are more fires today in Judea and Samaria than there are in Gaza. The only difference, he says, is that you don't hear about it. You don't know about it. It's not in the media. It's not being publicized. But statistically, there are more fires in the last couple of months going on in Judea and Samaria than there are in the entire Gaza district. I mean, that's an amazing thing. And the tragedy, the sickness of this story is that the same chief of commander said that the secret security, what's called the Shin Bet, secret security of Israel, is doing nothing about it. Can you imagine if there were Jews setting fires? Man, they would have a special unit out. They would erect a special unit to try to catch these people. But he says nothing is being done by the secret service, and therefore success of the Arabs encourages others to do the same. Whereas if they were not successful and they would receive heavy punishments, then this would deter further arsonists. So this is a tragedy. But just a thought that I had when he was talking about this whole phenomena of fires that are raging every day, it seems like, in the land of Israel, north, south, east, west. You think about it, number one, it says that in the Talmud, it says when there is desecration of the Sabbath, God brings upon fire. Because it says in the Torah that a person should not light fires on the Sabbath. So measure for measure, fires begin to break out. Another interesting thing is that we've had these 50 LG, they have a lot of funky letters over there, the Pride marches, 50 of them in Israel, in cities and campuses, and that is considered in Torah language the fire of desire. And measure for measure, that's a possibility of why we are suffering. So these two major sins, number one was the desecration of Sabbath. If you remember when the Eurovision came to Israel, 30,000 people were, most of them were forced to work in order to prepare things for the Eurovision. 30,000 Jews desecrating the Sabbath. That was big time. Number two, of course, all these LGBT pride parades going around. This too brings the wrath, fire representing wrath of God. May we all repent soon. Okay, down to business. Take it to the limit. The land of Israel and the Torah. Number one source is the Tractate of the Sabbath, page 88, talks about a situation where there was a scoffer. He noticed that Rava was learning Torah in depth, and he was so taken over by the learning of the Torah. He was like in sort of a cloud, in a trance, and blood started gushing from his finger, and he didn't even notice. He just kept on learning. Didn't even faze him. And the scoffer turns to him and says to Rava, nothing has changed by y'all. Just like you accepted the Torah on Mount Sinai before listening to what the Torah says, listening to the commandments, hearing the commandments. Nothing has changed. You're still this reckless, irresponsible people. Second case comes at the end of the Tractate of Ketubot, 111. Talks about Rabbi Zera, who was trying to enter the land of Israel. He had either missed the ferry from one side, from one to the other side, or he had reached a place where there was no official bridge there. Anyways, he made some kind of ragtag kind of way to get over there, endangered his life, and there happened to be, once again, with all the luck, whenever you don't want them to be around, you have those scoffers around. So the scoffer appears somewhere, and he says, listen, you guys are crazy, nothing has changed. Since you accepted the Torah on Mount Sinai, a long time ago, ages ago, before looking into what the Torah was all about, to understanding and listening to all of its laws, you accepted the Torah without even looking into it. This reckless and irresponsible behavior still holds by you all when you are endangering your life in order to cross over one side of the Jordan River to the opposite side. Nothing has changed. So we see, very interesting, that in all of the Talmud there are only these two cases, Torah and the land of Israel, which have a similar story where scoffers notice that certain rabbinical figures are taking it to the limit, and they're doing these wild things. Rava, he's learning Torah, he's gushing blood, and he just keeps on going. He doesn't even realize this is happening to him. Rabbi Zera, he's like climbing over mountains, over the valley, trying to get. He's doing one of these evil Knievel, was it Snake Canyon or the Grand Canyon jump, endangering himself. So these two commandments, Torah, learning, and also the land, living in the land of Israel, these two commandments, more than others, are the icons of Na'aseh v'nishma, of take it to the limit, of going to the end. Now, when we say the statement, Naseh v'nishma, we will do and then we will listen. What is the bottom line conclusion of such a statement? On the ground, what does it mean? We know that there's this concept. It might be a lofty concept, but let's bring it down to its conclusions. To how do we live by this? So number one, the number one idea that we're going to pass, to give over right now, is the following. When you have a person that is in love with somebody, someone, something, you're not bothered by surrounding difficulties or hurdles that might come in your way. You have such a passion, you don't even recognize, you don't even realize that these obstacles were in your way. In other words, when you love somebody or something, you do not read the fine print. You do not read the fine print. When couples get married, how many of them have ever read the Jewish marriage contract? How many? Count them on one hand. Not many. But there's a lot of print there. There's a lot of fine print. A person goes and he rents a car. I mean, it probably would take a few days to read that entire, they give you this thing to sign, and it's all like in small letters. Who reads that? But you're in love, you're in a passion, you want to rent that car. If I want to rent that car and I'm going to do such great things with that car, we're going to go to great places, or a vacation, or various events. Who reads that small print? We're just going to sign on the dotted line, baby, and we're going to get that rent-a-car. Okay, let's give a few examples of real life, how this plays out, and how this should, how the Jewish people, how we should look at Torah and look at the land of Israel. Take it to the limit. There's this new concept over the last couple of years. It's called Black Friday. After Thanksgiving on Thursday, they got Black Friday. And I mean, I hope it's okay to say that. I know that there's certain words you're not allowed to say today. There's no more blacks in America. They're African Americans. So I hope I'm PC okay. If I call it Black Friday, anyone that wants to comment, happy to hear if I stepped over bounds on this one. But you have people there that have been waiting in line, sleeping on the street for hours and hours and hours. Sometimes the temperature is minus who knows. We're talking about the end of November, kind of chilly. But no problem. Doesn't bother anyone. Doesn't even hit them at all. They don't realize it. Doesn't bother them. These obstacles, they don't even see them. Because it's Black Friday. And we're going to get some good buys. We're going to buy us those, we're going to buy us a TV. And we're going to get us some real good buys. Imagine this. Remember the Dick Clark on New Year's Eve? The ball falls from Times Square. Countdown. Remember those? People are out there many, many times. It's like snowing there. And you have hundreds of thousands of people waiting for that stupid ball to fall down. But it's freezing out there. Stay in your house. Watch it on TV. No, you got to be there. It's not the same. Live or Memorex. Not the same. How about this? This one I could really relate to. Waiting in line half a day to buy playoff tickets. Think about that one. A half a day, 12 hours. I don't want to mention any names here, to make people look bad, but I've heard rumors that there are people out there that do wait 12 hours or more for those playoff tickets. Last but not least, you might be able to relate to this one. A person, a teenager, a kid, he's going on a vacation. Now usually this kid or teenager, in order to wake him up, you have to use like electric chair procedures or grenade attacks, maybe shower experience, fire hose the kid in order to get him up. But now, kid went to bed 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, it's 3 a.m., you gotta leave. And all of a sudden, no fire hoses, no electric chairs, no hand grenades, no threats. Joey, time to get up for vacation. Well, that Joey, whoo, baby, he's flying up. Few minutes, he's dressed, ready to go. Okay, we're ready here. Wow! You have to say a blessing with God's name on that one. When a person is in love, when a person has a tremendous desire or passion for somebody, something, some item, some issue, they're willing to do the most crazy, abnormal, unbelievable stuff. And they're not fazed by it at all. They got a smile on their face, no problem. They're smiling it out. You ever see people after a workout? They look like maybe they're gonna pass away or something. But, they're so happy. So happy. You just ran for 10 miles over here. Yeah, it's great. But look at yourself, look in the mirror. I mean, you're sweating and you're huffing and puffing. Oh, wow, this is the greatest. 10 miles? Felt like I was running for a minute or two. Just love it. When you're in love, you don't feel it. That's the idea. God gave us, especially these two commandments, Torah and the land of Israel, and through our love and desire and passion, nothing will get in our way to achieve both of them. Number 2, a second conclusion, or the bottom line. What does this Naseh v'nishma, we will do? We accept all of the Torah, and later on we'll find out about the details, but we accept right away. Second concept here is, the bottom line is that our intellect tells us one thing, however, our conclusion is just the opposite. So we have the intellect, but then we have this passion, we have this love and desire, and with perfect faith and innocence, we go ahead and we take those steps. And we believe that if we do our part, God will fill in the empty blanks. Let's give an example from these two Talmud sections. One about Rava and his finger bleeding, gushing blood, and one about Rabbi Zera doing a trapeze over the Jordan River. Rabbi Zera, when the scoffer turned to him and said, are you nuts? You're endangering your life. You could fall into the Jordan River, you'll be killed. He said, listen, Rabbi Zera said, listen, I'm trying to get into the land of Israel. This is a place where even Moses and Aaron were not worthy to come in. And you think I'm going to let these little details of danger stand in my way? No way. What did he really mean? What did he really mean? Now listen closely. According to one's intellect, Rabbi Zera should have realized that if Moses, if his brother Aaron were unsuccessful, it did not merit to come into the land of Israel, and these two guys, Moses and Aaron, they were tremendous righteous people who almost reached the 50th level of knowledge. These were people that fought for the Jewish people. These were people that brought the Jewish nation out of slavery. If he would have used just his intellect, he would have never crossed that Jordan River. The intellect tells him if Moses was not worthy, then 100%, 1,000,000%, 1,000,000,000%, you, Rabbi Zera, are not worthy. It's not what he did. Against all odds, with the passion, with the love, I'm going to do my best. And with this faith and with this innocence of agreeing to whatever God says we will do, this innocence, without looking into it first, God will fill in the blanks. Second case, with Rava. He's sitting there and he's learning Torah. Blood is gushing out. What does that mean? According to one's intellect, let's bring it down to home. A person has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. amount of kids. And you make a calculation, you sit down one day and you go through. There are many people today that do these calculations. They could tell you, well, I'll tell you why I don't have any kids, because let me tell you how much kids cost. In health insurance, it costs this much amount of money. In schooling, in university, for after school activities. They got it down. Baby, they got it down. They could tell you to the cent how much money it costs. I don't have that money. I just don't have the money. Now imagine this. They don't have the money for this one kid. But then you have Jewish families, not one kid, and not 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 19. They never sat down and did those calculations. Can you imagine? I mean, these people who were not Jewish who did these calculations, imagine if they would send their kids to a Jewish private school. We're talking 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 tuition. One kid. How are you going to send your kids to religious Jewish institutions? According to one's intellect, you have no shot. But the Jewish people have never done those calculations. With perfect faith and with innocence, we will do our part, and God will fill in those blanks. So that is the bottom line of intellect versus passion, love, affection, and innocence. Naaseh v'nishma. Third concept that we learn. It says in the Tractate of Sabbath, also page 88, amazing thing. Angels do not have independent power to do anything, to act. Like, you got it, you heard it correctly. Angels, these are not Charlie's angels, these are God's angels. They have no independent possibility, strength, ability to accomplish anything. But we know that they do a lot of, they're great messengers of God. They're God's angels. And they're going around the world. So what's giving them the energy? What's giving them the gas to travel on? So the Talmud tells us on page 88, that the angels have a secret. Don't tell anyone this, folks. You know what the secret of the angels is? The secret of the angels is when they cry out, Na'aseh v'nishma. We wish to do, and later we will listen to details. When they say, this is a secret, the secret of their success, the secret of their missions, without these two words, they are unable to accomplish anything in the world, to move anything themselves, anybody else. It's kind of like, remember the da-da-da-da-da-da-dam, da-da-da-da-dam-da-dam, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Remember Popeye and the spinach? These, like Popeye, he's about to get blown away by, what was that fat dude's name? I don't remember what that guy, Bruto, yeah, Bruto. Bruto was about to squash him or jump on him. And in the last second, he gets that can of spinach, yummy. And he breaks it open, and all of a sudden, the muscles come out, boom, 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 and then he's able to defeat Bruto. So this is the angels. The angels, they say these two words, and this is the angels' spinach. The angels' spinach. Same too, the book Hechala, page 488, says, so too with the Jewish people. The Jewish people realize that if we were to investigate the Torah before we accepted it, there would be no way to humanly perform the Torah, perform the commandments, to carry out the mission of the Torah, if we were first to look into it. The secret that the Jewish people learned from the angels was the secret of take it to the limit. The secret of say those two words, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do. Afterwards we'll check it out. Afterwards we'll hear more details. But our first step is we are going to get up. We are going to put on our shoes. We are going to go out, and we are going to take those first steps. There's a famous Chinese expression. Every long journey started out with the first step, with one step. This is the success of the angels, enabling them to fulfill their mission, and this willingness of the Jewish people to sacrifice. Take it to the limit, to the very end, to the max. This is our secret, and especially on the two commandments of Torah and the land of Israel, living in the land of Israel. The fourth root of the concept, Na'aseh v'nishma, the scoffer could not believe that the two foundations of Israel's survival were Torah and the land of Israel. That he could not believe. How could the land of Israel be the foundation of Jewish survival? Without this, There is no Jewish survival. It's an amazing thing. A recent survey came out. Very interesting. Today, we know the assimilation hits everywhere. Those that are still in the ball game, the overwhelming majority of Jews who are still connected somehow, we're not talking about the religious community, that's an obvious, but Jews that are still connected somehow to Judaism are only those Jews that support Israel. That's an amazing thing. Their lifeline to Judaism, they're holding on, is the fact, forget about visiting. Most of them have not been here. Forget about living here. But the last straw that could break the camel's back is the fact that they support the land of Israel. Amazing. That is their oxygen. That's a pretty amazing concept. That is the last straw. So the scoffers, they saw for Torah and for the land of Israel, the Jewish people, represented by Rabbi Zera and Rava, they are willing to endanger themselves. They are willing to sacrifice their lives. The blood of Rava gushing out. That's just not okay. I got a, my hand got cut up. No, it's much more deeper than that. This is the symbol. Blood, sweat, and tears. That's the name of the game. The scoffer could not believe that our survival depends on our willingness for blood, sweat, and tears, and to even sacrifice our lives for Torah. The scoffer in the second case could not believe that in order for us to continue to survive, as it says in the Talmud, a person that has no land is not considered even to be a person. For 2,000 years almost, the Jewish people did not have a land. We were not really human beings. As the Gros wrote, Rabbi Eliyahu of Vilna wrote that the Jews outside the land of Israel are in a cemetery. They're in a cemetery. They're not really alive. So think about that. The survival of the Jewish people depends on our connection to the land of Israel. And for these to be connected to Torah and the land of Israel, there is a basic need to be willing to take it to the limit, till the very end. Rabbi Zera was not the only one who endangered his life in order to enter the land of Israel. Let's look at other cases in the Talmud. We have in the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, Tractate Shabbat, Sabbath, page 40, side B. Amazing case there. There's a rabbi who came from Babylonia to the land of Israel. His name was Rabbi Zachia. And there was, in the land of Israel, there was a discussion on a law pertaining to Shabbat, to the Sabbath. And they asked Rabbi Zachia, who had come from Babylonia, his opinion on this discussion. And then he gave his opinion. And the rabbis responded the following statement. They said, Rabbi Zachia, we see the fact that you endangered yourself by crossing over 3 rivers, 3 bodies of water from Babylonia, which today is in the area of Iraq. You crossed over 3 rivers, endangered your lives. This is all written in the Talmud and the commentaries, which I just mentioned. It must that all of this anticipation, all of this fear for your life, because you're endangering yourself not once, not twice, not 3 times, who knows how many times when you're crossing over rivers. This must have affected your thinking process. So you got this law not correct. It must have affected you. It's an amazing thing. For all generations, Jews endanger themselves in order to try to come and live in the land of Israel. So this is the idea of the blood of Rava and the taking one's life, sacrificing one's life of the great sages to come into the land of Israel. There was no backing out. There was no danger too great in order to merit to come into the land of Israel. Now folks, the last 2 points here, put on some seatbelts. These points are really amazing. Rabbi Avram Kook writes in his book Tov Ro'i on page 313. When we talk about take it to the limits regarding the land of Israel, we spoke about many lofty issues. When a person's in love, has a passion, a desire, there's no obstacle too great. They don't even recognize that there's any obstacles, heat, cold, it could be raining, snowing, it doesn't matter. We're in love. God, we go against our intellect, and we believe that because of our innocence, all we talked about today, there is even a greater level here that we're going to reach right now, that Rav Kook points out, an amazing lesson. He says, you know what? Naaseh v'nishma, we agree to do, we accept to perform. Later, we'll look into all the details. But first, we are willing to perform. You know, I used to learn at a certain yeshiva, and sometimes I would come up to the rabbi in charge of the office there, and I would ask him a question. He had this funny answer. He would say, I said, Rabbi, can I ask you a question? He said, sure. The answer is no. What's the question? So the Jewish people are exactly the opposite. Somebody comes up to you, can you do me a favor? Sure. What is it? I like that response. No. What's the question? Opposite of Torah, opposite of Judaism, but it's kind of cute. Now, he was a good man. So folks, think about this. This is the highest. Rabbi Zera wants to move to Israel. There's one big obstacle in his face, and that is his rabbi. His rabbi is Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda says that we have to stay put in Babylonia till the Messiah comes. And anybody that leaves, even to the land of Israel, transgresses a commandment of the Torah. This is his rabbi. Now, Rabbi Zera had tremendous respect, and he was fearful of course, of teachers, of rabbis, of sages, like every Jew should be. Can you imagine this? I mean, this is taking it to the limit. This is putting the pedal to the metal. Rabbi Zera, who understands that his rabbi who taught him most of his Torah, says black and white, puts his fist down. One is not allowed to leave Babylonia until the time coming of the Messiah. Don't think that Rabbi Yehuda was not a lover of the land of Israel. He was a tremendous. In fact, in the tractate of Brachot, he is called, the other sages say, duh, you can't listen to Rabbi Yehuda. He loves the land of Israel too much. Okay, so he's not a hater of the land of Israel. Sometimes today, even amongst the Jewish people, the people that have hate. So, Rabbi Zera is willing to sacrifice the highest of the highs, the lofties of the lofties. He's willing to sacrifice his spiritual well-being. He's going up against his own rabbi and ignoring his own rabbi's law. Do we understand? And this is much the danger, the fright. It's scary. That move is much more, it's much graver than trying to trapeze your way over the Jordan River. Think about it. In last week's portion, we read about Miriam. She was upset the fact that Moses left his wife. She had great intentions. She believed that she was correct and Moses was wrong. However, once she went up against Moses, God afflicted her with leprosy for 7 days. She was punished. And if we look at a person in the Torah like Reuven. Reuven had great intentions. And he had a lot of, perhaps, proofs that when he, after Rachel had passed away, he was so happy for his mother that now Jacob would be in the tent, in the home of his mother, Reuven's mother, Leah. So he was so happy. And all of a sudden he sees his father, Jacob, moves his bed into the tent, get this, of the servant of Rachel, named Bilhah. He's furious. Servant. Yeah, can you imagine you have the president, and then you have an advisor, or you have somebody that works in the White House. That's an amazing thing. So Reuven is certain that he is doing the proper thing by moving the bed out of Bilhah's tent, house, and moving into his mother's, Leah, tent. Because of this move, look at the punishment that he received. I mean, he took a hit, a tremendous spiritual hit. And those are the worst, far worse than a materialistic hit. He lost 3 spiritual crowns. Number 1, kingdom should have come from the family of Reuven. Number 2, he lost the priesthood, kehuna. He lost the priest. The priesthood should have come from Reuven's family. And last but not least, Reuven was the firstborn, and the firstborn is entitled to various benefits. He lost that too to Joseph. 3 crowns, 3 spiritual elevators to bring us way up, closer to Hashem. He lost that vehicle. Can you imagine, folks, if you're not shaking here, the risk that Rabbi Zera took when in light and understanding what his Rabbi Yehuda said, that one is not allowed to leave Babylonia and come up to the land of Israel? He ignores his rabbi, and he comes up to the land of Israel. And he's not alone. This is also in Tractate Brachot, Blessings, page 24. Rabbi Abba goes against his Rav, who also happened to be Rav Yehuda, and moves to Eretz Yisrael. So we have 2 students of Rabbi Yehuda. One is Rabbi Abba and one is Rabbi Zera, that endangered, put on the line, sacrificed their spiritual future, a tremendous risk, to come into the land of Israel. No greater sacrifice, no greater take it to the limit. An amazing, folks, stuff like this you can't make up. An amazing line. This, what you're about to hear now, I'm summarizing. This is Rabbi Natan Friedlander in his book Yosef Chen. Rabbi Natan Friedlander is from Europe. He was the author of many books. One of them was called Yosef Chen. In his book Yosef Chen, on page 24, side 1, he has an amazing piece. This book, Yosef Chen, was printed in 1878. So we're talking about 140 years ago. It was printed. Listen to this amazing take by this Torah giant, and remember it all your life. Listen closely. Rabbi Zera, this is Tractate Ketubot 112b. These are the last lines of the tractate. When the Messiah comes, when the Mashiach comes, there will be tremendous incrimination against the rabbis of the generation. Accusation, incrimination. Rabbi Zera, realizing this, was frightened, and he turned to Shmuel, and he went over this point that in the final days before the coming of the Messiah, there's going to be tremendous incrimination against the Torah leaders. What was the comment of Shmuel? He hears this. Shmuel says, you're right, that not only will 9/10 of the Jewish people, God forbid, be eliminated, the 1/10 left will have to go through a cleansing process. Not all will make it. So one understands from Shmuel that the 1/10, the righteous, even they will come under accusation by God. What does this mean? Listen to the words of Rabbi Natan Friedlander. Amazing. Rabbi Zera understood that the stance of his rabbi, Rabbi Yehuda, who claimed that one is not allowed to come to the land of Israel until the coming of the Messiah, one that does come up to the land of Israel transgresses a commandment, Rabbi Zera realized that such a stand by Rabbi Yehuda was causing tremendous incrimination against the leaders of the Jewish people and the Jewish people. And he saw more. Rabbi Zera saw, not only right now, in my generation, in my days, is Rabbi Yehuda's statement, attitude, causing incrimination, causing accusation against the leaders, against the Jewish people for such a stand. But in the future, before the coming of the Messiah, this will reappear, that many leaders of the generation will stand in the way of coming back and returning to the land of Israel. And this will cause tremendous incrimination, accusation against them and against the Jewish people. So he took it to who? Shmuel. Who is Shmuel? Shmuel happens to be the rabbi of Rabbi Yehuda. This is Rabbi Yehuda's rabbi. So he thought that perhaps Shmuel would have some influence on his student Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Nathan Friedler says, when Shmuel heard these words, that such a stance of his student, Rabbi Yehuda, is causing today and will in the future cause accusation against the Jewish people, he nodded his head and he brought in proofs. This is true. Even the 1/10, Shmuel says, even the 1/10 remaining will have to go through a purification process, and how many will be left? That's an amazing thing. That's how he explains the last lines of the tractate of Ketubot. Last but not least, this is even more amazing. I mean, if he didn't write it, I would never say it. Listen to this, folks. You know the song, "We want Mashiach now, we want Mashiach now"? Isn't that a great song? We want Mashiach now, we don't want to wait. Is it so? Is that such a simple issue? Or not? Listen to this Torah by Rabbi Nathan Friedler. This is a commentary on the tractate of Sanhedrin, the court, 97, side 1. Page 68 in Yosef Chaim book. Number 1. We know that the approach of Rabbi Yehuda was that the Jewish people must wait for Mashiach until they are able to move to the land of Israel. Rabbi Zera, this is happening in the tractate, Sanhedrin, page 97, side 1. Rabbi Zera sees a group of rabbis discussing the time of the coming of Mashiach. Isn't that great? We want Mashiach now, we don't want to wait. And he pleads with them, please stop this discussion. Rabbi Zera, is everything okay? Stop the discussion? Don't we say every day after prayers that we believe every day that the Messiah will come? Do we not await? And do we not desire? Of course we desire, and of course we pray that it will be today. But that wasn't Rabbi Zera's point. Listen to this. By discussing the coming of the Messiah, you are delaying the coming of the Messiah. We will explain what this means. How could that be? I thought you got to talk about Mashiach, and that will bring the Mashiach. Isn't that obvious? Isn't that ABC? All of a sudden Rabbi Zera says, stop! You're holding back the redemption. What does this mean? Rabbi Nathan Friedler says the following. Rabbi Zera saw in his days, in his generation, that the rabbis The Jewish people were not coming to the land of Israel. Why? Because they were all waiting for the Messiah to take them there. According to Rabbi Zera, this was impeding the coming of the Messiah, because the Jewish people have to take our step. We have to take the first steps. We have to make the effort to come and live in the land of Israel. This will either bring the redemption, it will definitely bring the redemption closer, and if not, maybe there's some reasons, some transgressions. We're living in the land of Israel. What could be better than that? We're in God's land, a land that God, so to speak, His eyes are over the land all year round. There's tremendous divine protection here in this land. There's tremendous holiness in this land. So therefore, in order to ignite the coming of the Messiah, we must leave and make our efforts to come and live in the land of Israel. This will ignite the coming of the Mashiach. But speaking about Messiah, when is He coming? Dates of when He's coming. And once Messiah comes, then and only then can we leave. This type of talk would be impending and stopping the coming of the Messiah. And he finishes with the words of Maimonides in a responsa question posed by a student of Maimonides. Maimonides says, those that believe and state that they will remain in their countries of origin until the coming of Messiah, who will then bring them to the land of Israel and Jerusalem, are sinning and causing others to sin. Amazing. So folks, this is the meat and potatoes. This is the bottom line. This is the culmination of what it means, especially in these two commandments: learning Torah, being connected to Torah, and coming to the land of Israel. I bless myself, I bless all of us, that God should give us the means and the health and the strength and the spirit to always take those first steps. Take it to the limit. Take it to the limit. Be willing to go to the very end for the honor of God. May it